So, good morning. We're talking about building forensics today. We can talk about energy auditing, and we can talk about home performance, and we can talk about energy efficiency rebates and all that stuff, but I don't talk about any of that. I talk about specifically solving problems with scientific tools because that is where it is at, and you are not going to get that message in full today. So, if you want more of this so that you can get more on board with it, then there's all kinds of videos. I have a YouTube channel, which is at youtube.com/c/homeperformance. You can hear the Building Performance Podcast, which is the only radio show that's dedicated specifically to building performance. You can read my book, which is sold through the TrueTech Tools site. It's called Home Performance Diagnostics. You can work with the software that I've developed specifically about using modular performance diagnostics and automating the reports that come out of them so that they're beautiful and as informative as possible for your clients. You can get certified, and I do mentorship via video conferencing now. So if you've got a site that you need some help with, there's all that stuff. And then also this fall, we're going to do the Fall Fast Track, which is my annual Mastermind class. It's 6 weeks long for people all over the country. So there's all kinds of different ways you can do this. I am one of the only voices, along with Bill Spohn, who is also on this webinar, who is talking about things aside from energy efficiency. You've got lots and lots of people yelling at you about energy efficiency. So first of all, let's go ahead and renew our vows of why we got into this conversation, why you are watching this video in the first place, and it has to do with a little something that goes like this. This is a house that you are about to see torn down. So the problem here is that most of the time, what is done in construction is not done the right way the first time. And so we end up in this situation where we're watching this very beautiful dance of this tractor tearing down the walls of a house. If we can avoid doing this, that is always, always better. There are all kinds of things that you can learn about the real estate industry, and I'm reading a fantastic book right now called How Buildings Learn. And it's by Stuart Brand. It's a fantastic book about kind of the dance of how buildings evolve. All buildings evolve is the short answer. Some of them evolve into this, where they just get torn apart. If we can do quality control on the construction industry, which is what all of what we're talking about today is for. It has nothing to do with energy efficiency, it has nothing to do with rebates, it has nothing to do with getting your money back. It's about, hey, if we're going to spend $100,000 or $200,000 or $1 million on a house, whether it's a renovation or a brand new home that you're building, you want to make sure that it's done the right way so you're not wasting your time flushing your money down the toilet. So, first thing that we know is that the home is a system, right? Everyone says that's the mantra of our industry. So here's what you need to know. Whether you're a homeowner watching this or a professional watching this or a policymaker, it doesn't matter. There are a 4, 3, 2, 1 system of how to think about this. There are 4 elements to the performance of any home. The first one is heat flow, the second one is airflow, the third is moisture, and the fourth is indoor air quality, and that's in increasing order of importance. I go into much more depth about this on another video, and I'm going to provide a link to that. There are 3 improvements that you can make to any home. In general, they are air sealing, number 1. Number 2, insulation. Don't do insulation before you do air sealing. And number 3, and only after air sealing and insulation, HVAC, meaning a new furnace, a new air conditioner, duct sealing, all that stuff. There are only 2 systems in the home that we really care about for the performance of the home. You can say that lights and plumbing and the water flow and all that stuff, that's all nice and well and good, but frankly, people are not calling me about that. And I learn best from my clients. They hire me to help them solve problems, and it always comes down to these 2 systems. There's the enclosure, which is the air sealing and the insulation, and the engines, which are the heating, the ventilation, the air conditioning, the water heating, anything that moves heat or air within the house or between the house and outside. So those are the 2 things that we're worried about. Now the one thing that always wins in that between those 2 is the enclosure. The enclosure is the most important thing, period, in any home. In fact, I had a HVAC professional say on a conference call like this to a bunch of HVAC professionals, I wouldn't even say this to HVAC pros. He said, listen guys, if the enclosure is good enough, you don't need an engine. You don't need an HVAC system. That's how important it is. So that is the message to take. And the one goal of all of this thinking as a system and approaching the homes and doing building forensics is control. It is not energy efficiency. You have a million people yelling at you that energy efficiency is the goal, and I am the one person you're going to hear today say it is not about that. And I learn from my clients. So if you start spouting about how I want to get my money out, back out of this investment I'm making in my home, or I'm going to help you, homeowner, get your money back, so the money that you spend on me today will come back into your pocket within 5 years, or whatever it is, that whole conversation won't even begin if we don't bring it up in the first place. Because the natural tendency for us is we just want our house to be the way that we want it. We want it to be warm. We want it to be the right temperature and the right humidity and all this stuff. And we don't want it to grow mold, etc., etc. So you spend money on vacations, you don't expect it back. You spend money on your house, don't expect it back. You get what you want. It's great. Now, the only way to prove that you have control over any home is performance testing. This is why people like Bill Spohn and his company are so important, because they provide us with not only Bill designed tools for a while, and he can talk about that. We're going to take questions at the end. And by the way, Bill, feel free to jump in if anybody has a question that's pressing, and I know that I talk pretty fast.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but supplying us with the tool that we need, and that's where you can call and say, hey, this is what I want to do. What tool would you recommend? Because there are, frankly, a million tools out there that will do all kinds of different things, and there is generally one or two that is right for your application. So knowing what you want to measure. And again, if you're a homeowner and you want to start measuring some of this stuff yourself, great idea, because there are a fair amount of contractors who can do this, but there are also most contractors who have no idea how all of this stuff works. So anybody who's watching this can start to become an activist for the system. So now that we are becoming an activist, we have to act as a system. You never, ever whip out your tools and just start testing things. You first always look, smell, listen to the house. Find out what's going on. Look at both sides of the wall. Look at the inside of the attic. Look at the crawl space and all this stuff, because you want to know what you're dealing with before you start whipping out your diagnostic tools that cost thousands of dollars and making measurements that you don't know what to expect, what they mean, anything like that. Don't test anything until you know what to expect. So once you start running the diagnostics, first off, you always treat your diagnostic tools like they're worth $1 million. Your client has no idea how much they spent. And homeowners, when you see somebody walk into your house and they treat their equipment like $1 million, you assume that that person is worth $1 million, because you want to hire a surgeon, right? So anybody who is really taking care with everything, and by the way, I've decided that one of my vetting questions for a client, if I'm on the fence about whether I want to work with them or not, is I'll ask them, do you floss on a daily basis? It has nothing to do with home performance or with their home improvement project, but it does have to do with whether they believe that investing time and effort now will pay off substantially at a later date. And that is what we want in people. So whether you're a professional or whether you're a homeowner, if you floss on a daily basis, I want to work with you. That's the message here. Then and only then we start making recommendations. So if you have an inspection and then the diagnostic data, then you can start making suggestions about how to improve the situation. Whether this is a new home, by the way, or an existing older home, recommendations are always important. Then, of course, we follow the recommendations in prioritized order and in staged order. And then the most important thing that you will not get if you're a homeowner, unless you ask for it, and you will not get if you're a professional unless you really take the time and plan it into your schedule here, is the proof of improvement, because proof is possible. And when you start marketing, not just that you meet the minimum standards of your profession, like, okay, I built a house and in Illinois I have to build it tight. So we had the blow order test and yeah, we pass. Along with every other house on the street, we all passed. It's a pass-fail system. That is not cool, because people don't pay more for something that is satisfactory. I was talking with a buddy of mine yesterday about something like janitorial services, right? So you expect that when you walk into a room, it will be clean and the trash will be taken out. There is no way for the people who do that service without thinking outside the box to really exceed expectations and to go above and beyond, so that somebody walks in and goes, wow, whoever did this cleaning is amazing. I want to pay them more. I want them for my own home. So that's the thing, though, is that this whole home improvement consulting and new home quality control is not about standards. They want you to believe that it's about standards. It's about meeting the specific prerequisites and the requirements of the code or the certification project or whatever. It is not about that. And once you can start showing people that you have a benefit to both your personality, that you're cool under fire, you can help them fix when we get lemonades, or lemons, you make lemonade. And on, you start to realize that you can deliver way more. And homeowners, you need to be hiring people who can deliver more, who do not just meet standards, they work beyond the standards, and they really help to systematize your approach, and they give you proof of the improvement. So here's what building. Now, you notice I'm making the same face all the time. I make this face all day long because I feel awesome about my job. I work with scientific tools. This on the left is the biggest door I have ever tested in my life. That is a huge, extra large, new Retrotech shroud that fits the biggest doors that they make, and I had to use it that day. It was pretty cool. That was a day when there was a 50-mile-an-hour wind constant. Now, first of all, you get proof, right? Because obviously proof is possible. This is what it's all about, is proof that you did a great job if you're a contractor, and proof that you got what you paid for if you're a homeowner. And if you're a realtor watching this, there is lots of money to be made in the transaction of these two things. You also get confidence. If you're a homeowner, you get confidence that, you know what, I didn't get ripped off. I know for a fact that the person that I had into my home was wonderful. They not only treated me nicely and they smiled, which, wow, I didn't even know contractors could do that. And secondly, they definitely gave me what I asked them for. And if you're a contractor, you know for a fact that, number one, your employees do exactly what you asked them to. Number two, you will not be called back to that home. And number three, you have the confidence to ask for more money. If I told you what I make on my average, what most people call an energy audit, I just raised my rates, by the way, in November. And I recommend that everybody on this call go ahead and, if you're a professional, raise your rates. Just do it, because you'll see that once people start realizing that you have the confidence to ask for the money that you are actually worth, they'll say, well, I guess you get what you pay for, huh? That's the response I get all the time. So people do not negotiate price with me anymore. You get cred. You get cred with your colleagues. You get cred with your neighbors when you have the ability to say, you know what, we did this and it worked. Bam. You also get friends. Isn't that nice? So there are all kinds of benefits here. You get people depending on you. You get people being loyal to your home improvement service or your home building service when you know for a fact that you are good at your job and you show other people how that is done. Being able to show people is the main thing, because these diagnostic tools, like on the left here, forget the blower door, and I told you this house tested out of the 3.2 ACH 50. Most people have no idea what that means. So my job now is to express what the meaning of the data is, because data itself is not meaningful. So I need to make the friends get the cred by expressing how important this is. And the last thing, obviously, is I get money. If I'm a homeowner, I don't waste money on replacing my roof every 10 years anymore, because it gets mold on the underside of it. I don't waste money on blowing a bunch of insulation or replacing all my windows. That's $30,000 wasted, because it's a drop in the bucket compared to what is really important. And you do not know what is important in your home until you have tested it. And I'm talking to you contractors too, because you don't know what you're about to get into unless you've tested it. The last thing you want is to step into a home where there are lots and lots of problems that are hidden, and you fix an obvious problem and cause a side effect that makes the home worse, less comfortable in certain areas than it was before. Now you're going to get sued. So we want to avoid all of that, and the way that you do that is to test. That is the only way to do it, and it is not about energy efficiency. I'm just going to say that again. All right, so we don't need the rebates from the energy programs. I do not work with energy programs. I'm going to say that again. I don't take any money from the programs run by our utility programs. I had one home that finished this last year that was a 3-year process that, yes, I took a couple $100 check or something like that on. But in general, I work in the private market only. And you are absolutely, if you're a contractor, not required to work in the utility programs. In fact, there's a podcast episode that I just released, number 61, at thebuildingperformancepodcast.com, of a contractor who is specifically moving out of utility programs and completely into the private market. So you should hear what he has to say as well. If you're a homeowner, you don't need rebates, because the contractors who work in rebate programs are trained to do the minimum amount of work for the minimum amount of money that they are getting. The programs pay very, very poorly. It's volume is what they're getting. So in general, when they do a rebate program, the job that they'll do for you is not nearly as intense and as much of a difference to your home as when you just say, listen, I just want you to do the best job possible, and I'm happy to pay for it. Because, of course, you get what you pay for, and you pay for what you get. So this is America. We need to make sure that we know that quality costs money. You cannot get something for nothing. That's not real. And there are lots of homes out there that need this. Newer homes. I have people call me all the time and say, well, my home is only like 2 years old. I don't understand why this is happening. This 2-year-old home was built with the new energy code that we have that's supposed to protect people. Guess what? Homes are not getting better. In fact, they're getting more complicated because we get more appliances, we get more tightness on the envelope, we get more insulation, but we don't get the whole understanding that the home is a system. So as long as homes have turrets like this and crazy corners and roofs that have a million different little gables and all this stuff, homes are going to need help forever. If you're a homeowner listening to this, do not buy a home that's got turrets on it. I'm just going to put that out there. If you can buy a square home or one that's really simply shaped, that's always better. For the contractors, don't feel like you're going to be working yourself out of a job when you start really taking this stuff seriously, because homes will always need help. And there's a million homes out there that have already gone through the rebate programs that have problems that are side effects of the rebate programs. So you don't need those things, but you do need experience. And if you're a contractor, you need to work with your tools. That is the most important thing you can possibly do. I can't tell you how many people I have trained in over 6-day courses or in my 6-week Mastermind course who have the certifications, they have the knowledge, they have the equipment, but they do not use it on a regular basis. That is going to get you very rusty, so that when you do pick up your equipment, you have to relearn it every time. The most important thing that I can recommend for you to do is use your tools on every single job, whether you need to or not. You need the ability to be able to whip that piece of equipment out and use it effectively and accurately and express what it means. And all of that takes a lot of practice. I do this all day long. All I do is test buildings. And I still learn something about my equipment and about houses on every single job. Keeps my job really fun. Like the face that I make whenever I have a tool in my hand. That is how I feel. If you're a homeowner, you need to hire someone who is experienced. Don't hire the cheapest person. You're going to do it anyway, I know that, but I'm going to tell you so that at least you've been told once before. You need the experience of also having owned a home before. If you are a first-time homeowner and you are listening to this, then you're not going to get it. Once you have a couple years in your home and you realize how much of a nightmare homes can really be, then you're ready for the home improvement contracting and for the home performance testing. So here's what's possible in the enclosure. Now, this is our renewal of vows. We're going to look forward in 2015 here. We're really excited about what's going on. The enclosure. Here's what I want. I want to quantify air leakage and the insulation levels everywhere in the house. And that has to do with just the enclosure. The insulation level in the floor between a living room and a bedroom doesn't matter because that's not part of the enclosure. The enclosure is everything between inside and outside. And remember that zonal pressure testing, which is what we're going to talk about in a minute, says that every single part of the house should be either totally inside or totally outside. Any gray area is bad. I then want to locate every single opportunity for improvement. And professionals, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, well, sometimes I see something that's like just can't be fixed, go ahead and show your client, because homeowners generally want to know what's going on. And if they were to move into this house that's on the right, and you show them an infrared photo that says, hey, listen, your house doesn't have any walls, the wind just comes straight through, here's how that looks. They would say, wow, great, next house I buy, I'm going to make sure that that house gets a scan by you or has the proof that it has these features that are going to make me comfortable. And then proof of improvement. Always, always proof of improvement. Even if you don't ask for it, or if you are not asked for it, contractors, you should go ahead and supply it for your own marketing ability. If you can walk into somebody's home and give them a bid, and they say, why are you $5,000 or $10,000 more than your competitor? And you can say exactly why, because this is the kind of work that I do, and I have scientific proof that my work is excellent. And I also have scientific proof that my competitor's work is not excellent, because I test everything. I test their work when I'm called in to fix their problems. That's my pre-improvement test. And I fix my work when I'm done, and that's my post-improvement test. Homeowners, you need to ask for it, because even if you hire a company that does testing all the time, and they talk about testing, and they talk about home as a system and building science, blah, 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 if they don't specifically put in the proposal that they are going to test, then you will not get that test, because it takes time and effort. So you need to ask for it. Everybody needs to be talking about this and doing it. So here's what I'm going to do this year. I'm going to make some vows to you, and I'm going to be showing you how this stuff turns out for me over the coming year. First of all, on every single blower door test I do, I am going to start doing pressurization and depressurization, period. I'm going to do zonal pressure testing every single time I set up a blower door, and that includes code compliance, where you just go in, you set up, you do the test, get your CFM 50, interpret it, and then leave. I'm going to make sure that I actually take a manometer and go do at least one zonal pressure test. I'm going to do advanced leakage quantification, or ALQ, which is the newest section in my book, whenever I possibly can. And whenever possible means whenever the physics of the house actually can allow me to do that. And I'm going to show you how that works too. And I want better, cleaner, more concise infrared photos. That means I get down on the floor, I try to include as many things as possible in the frame. I try to get my infrared report to be from 12 pages down to 6 pages. Because if I can say something with a picture instead of 1,000 words, it's better. And if I can say something with 6 pictures instead of 12 pictures, that is better. I want to be able to say powerful, powerful stuff. Now, I also want to make sure that I am working better, because every single time I go out in the field, I think, you know what? I should put this piece of equipment in that box, or I should have this tape in my pocket, or I should this. I want to make sure that I'm really taking those things and using them to inform my work every single time. So I go back and I take my equipment and I reorganize it then and there so that I know exactly how much better I'm going to be at doing that job next time. So first of all, blower door testing, okay? If you don't have your brand on your blower door shroud, contractors, go ahead and do it. It cost me $300 to do that you see there on the right, and it's just free advertising. I can't say that I've had any calls from it, but it is cool, and people will drive by and see it, and it's, at the very least, if they see it and say, oh, they should get one of those, and then they look online, and you're not the first thing that comes up, that's a problem. So we're going to pressurize and depressurize. What that will do for you, and if you've never done this, then you don't know, those are two different numbers. You could go into a new home that you need to pass code compliance and depressurize it, which is the way mostly we do things. Homeowners, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry if you're a little lost right now. We suck air from outside, from the house to outside, and air from outside comes in through all the cracks. Most of the time, that's going to result in a lower number. So I could get to give you an example, I could pass code by a small margin. But then if I turn the fan around and I pressurize it, it would actually be a bigger number, and I would fail code by a small margin. Now the thing to do here is to take those two numbers, add them together, divide by 2, average them, right? That's what you really want to know. I want to compare these two numbers, because me telling you that this happens and you actually seeing it happen in real life are different. You want to learn from this experience and say, oh, you know what? I have noticed over the last 30 tests that I've done that brick homes actually have a lot less difference in the pressurization-depressurization scheme than stick frame homes, and I believe that's because of building paper. In these homes, it made much less difference, and I believe that's because the building paper was taped properly, and in these homes, it was a massive difference, and I think that points to building paper not being taped. So you can start to do forensics on things you can't see, touch, anything. They're in the middle of the building with these extra advanced diagnostics. And we're going to be able to prepare for advanced leakage quantification with pressurization testing, which is the one that most people don't do, because in some cases you do not want to suck air from a zone into the house, because it's just not going to be healthy. There's going to be insulation or dust or whatever. So zonal pressure testing. If I'm running the blower door right now at this picture that you're taking a look at, you can see that the pressure in the room behind that closed door on the right is 5 pascals with reference to the main body of the house. The main body of the house is under blower door pressure, which is 50. So that 5, I divide by 50, which is the pressure I've got the house at, and that shows that that room right there has a 10% connection to outdoors. There are a million ways you could say this, but I find that that's the easiest way to express this to somebody who doesn't understand how this test works. You just say, that room has a 10% connection to outside, this room has a 5% connection. Therefore, we're going to really focus our work on air sealing in this room that's got the bigger connection. Now, there's another zonal pressure test that you could do, which is when the blower door is not running, And all you do is close the doors in the house and turn on the air conditioning or the furnace. When it starts blowing and sucking into different rooms at different rates, you'll have pressurization happening. And if you've ever had a house get the air conditioning turned on and then a door slams somewhere in that house, that is a result of pressure that's unbalanced in the house. So here, if the blower door is not running, we just had the air conditioner running, you can see that on the right, the undercut on that door is very slight. I can see hardly any sunlight. On the left, I can see a lot of sunlight on that door up at the top left. This door that's closed has very little space for air to get out of it, and there's only a supply register in there. And if you have a home and you're looking around right now, go ahead and count how many supply and return registers you have in the room that you're in. And if you only see supply registers, that means that when you close that door, it's going to be pressurized. If that number on my manometer is over 3, that's a problem. This is the kind of thing that you can really start to test. You want to know what you are about to test and how exactly to run it before you start testing stuff. Because I have plenty of people call me and say, hey, I tested all the zonal pressures and they were all 0. And I was like, okay, did you close the doors? And they said, no, I just threw the hose in. Well, that's not a test. You're not testing anything. So you want to make sure that you don't waste 2 hours of your time. Make sure that to read the book, and you can preview, by the way, the entirety of my book at homeperformancebook.com. Every single page is there in Google Preview. Advanced leakage quantification. Okay, this is a big, hairy animal that is difficult to get if you only do it once a year. If you do it all the time, you get better and better at it. First of all, over on the right, if you've ever tried to throw a hose up into an attic to pre-wire it for a zonal pressure test and had it fall back out on you 5 or 6 times and you waste 10 minutes trying to place this hose, this is my solution for this. You just tie the little hose in a loose knot at the ladder and then just put it back up there. So it's super easy. This is all about testing the CFM flow through the blower door with the zone closed and open, and testing the zonal pressure across that barrier. It's too complicated for me to describe right here, but it will be the subject of future Mastermind webinars. It was the subject of a past one as well, which you can get to at buildingperformanceworkshop.com in my training portal. Now, here's what's possible with HVAC. First of all, you want to quantify and locate duct leakage. You cannot locate duct leakage with a simple duct tightness test. You can with a duct tightness test plus theatrical fog if all of the ductwork is exposed, but you have to use a pressure pan and a blower door to locate it otherwise. You want to pinpoint system airflows and pressures, know exactly what they are before you start working on the thing and after, and you can prove that you did the thing right. And this is something that scares a lot of HVAC professionals because they don't even know that it's possible. You can test how much conditioning is actually delivered in BTUs per hour, and you compare that to a manual J. Now, here's what I vow to you this year, and this is going to be the subject of future Mastermind webinars. Again, you want to think outside the box. When you are BPI certified, or when you are now ResNet certified for combustion testing, and all of these different standards are, we're working with NFPA, and we're working with the ANSI, and blah, blah, blah. You want to know what the standard is, and then you want to work past the standard, because the standard is one of those things that you can only be satisfactory or unsatisfactory at. So if you are asking someone to do a job for you, homeowners, and they say, I'm going to do it to this standard, that's great. But hopefully they're also going to do more stuff for you, because the theme of building forensics is that people generally want to solve problems. Every home has specific problems, and they very rarely are exactly the same as every other home. So you want to be able to take the standards and then customize. Some homes, you don't need to do combustion, like CAS depressurization testing, because it's all sealed combustion equipment, or it's the stuff is in an attic. So if you try to hew to the standards all the time, you'll end up burning up a lot of energy and not solving the specific problems that you're there for. System airflows. I'm going to get system airflow on every single house, and static pressures on every single system. Bam. Just for my own information, even if they don't complain about the HVAC system. And I want to know how much heating and cooling is actually being delivered. So here's what I'm going to do. System airflow. This is called a true flow plate. It is $800. You get up to an $800 manometer and you get the reading. It takes 10 minutes. It's only one piece of equipment. I've tried this a bunch of different ways, and as you can see in my book, there's 5 different ways to test system airflow, and that's not even counting some extra ways that you could use. What I have found is that this is the easiest way. You could get the fan curve tables from the manufacturer and use blah, blah, blah. You could use a pitot tube and do all kinds of crazy calculations. Frankly, this is the easiest way. This configuration here, where the plenum comes down and then takes a 180-degree turn through the blower cabinet is the worst place to use this piece of equipment, but I at least want a piece of data. Even if it is a little bit flawed, it's better to have data that's like maybe not 100% accurate than no data at all. It's critically important because if I'm going to do, for example, if you do an NCI test, and I'm not picking on NCI, I think they're great, and I like them as people, but there is a thing that I have seen done by people who are hewing to that standard, where they take all of the return register airflows and all of the supply register airflows, and they use that to compare against what the airflow should be through the system, and they calculate duct leakage from it. That makes no sense for reasons that I cannot get into right now, but trust me, they are not counting for some of the leakages that are in the system. It just doesn't make sense. So you want to know what the system airflow is, the airflow through the actual blower, and that is what this is for. Next, total external static pressure, TESP. This is a difficult concept to get. And again, I explain it, I think, fairly concisely in the first page of this test in my book. But basically what you want to know is how much pressure total is there on both sides of the blower. It takes 2 minutes, takes one piece of equipment. You want to make sure that the blower is set on the highest speed. This is something that's going to take some extra HVAC knowledge on your part. So if you're a contractor and you don't know much about HVAC, you need to get somebody who knows what they're talking about to just show you how the circuit board works. And yes, you are going to be touching things on the circuit board. So you want to make sure that it's under 0.5 inches of water column. That's half an inch water column. That's every single furnace generally on the market is rated for that as a max. I guarantee you that once you start testing this, you will find that 100% of the systems that you test are over that maximum limit. And that is because the person who installed this system did not test it, so they have no proof that they did a good job, and therefore the marketing that says, we do a good job, without any data is total BS. You cannot believe it unless there's actual data. You can also, by the way, you can just use this in pascals, and 25 pascals is a 10th of an inch water column. So that's a pretty good reading right there. Okay, delivered conditioning capacity. This is the last piece of the puzzle here. On heating, right, you want to take temperature and airflow. Now, what is this a picture of? This is a picture of what my buddy Bill Spohn on this call told me would be the best idea. These are called K-type thermocouples. These are things that are meant to be hooked up to dual-channel thermometers that I just have, and you plug the little plug that you see there into the top of it, and it'll tell you what the temperature is. The problem with doing this is that you either need 30 data loggers that are sending information wirelessly back to your laptop at the center of the house, and all of that needs to work, and everybody needs to have batteries and all that stuff. Or you can walk around the house and take the measurements. And so what I did is ordered 30 of these thermometers, and I'm going to tie these onto each of the supply registers and be able to just simply walk up, plug it in, get the temperature, move on. The reason that that's important is going to become clear to you in future Mastermind webinars because it takes a lot of time to do this. This package cost me $30 for 30 of those. Now for cooling, you need temperature plus humidity plus airflow, which I'm going to talk about in just a moment. Now I'm going to show you how exactly to do this in future webinars, but right now you're saying, I want to know. I hear you. I'm going to give you a real quick 1 minute thing. Now, this picture is what got me really excited over the holidays. This is why I'm renewing my vows with you right now. That piece of equipment at the top is called an Arduino. That is a $50 computer processor with just a couple of inputs. It's made to interact with the physical world. We have a little readout, and we've got this little $1 or $2 sensor, the blue thing right there, that measures relative humidity as well. So we get the temperature going into the furnace, we get the temperature coming out at the register, and we get the airflow at the register. And the airflow at the register is going to be a topic that Bill and I were just discussing before this webinar started. That also is going to be something that we're going to talk about in future Mastermind webinars. So you want to make sure that you are able to measure all those things. Now, if you can measure those and compare them to a manual J, you can tell exactly how well a system is performing as compared to how it was designed. Bam. So here's what's possible with in general, right? You don't want this to happen. Each of these products that you see in this wall, that's wood, that's perfectly fine wood, that's spray foam, and spray foam is perfectly fine, that's cellulose, and that's fiberglass. But they are not meant to be installed like this. That's totally ridiculous. So what we want is for performance testing to be the mainstream. Everything ends in performance testing to make sure that everybody knows for a fact that the job was done correctly. Now, your question right now is going to be, how the heck is that possible? This is how that's possible. These are not pictures of contractors. These are not pictures of realtors. These are not pictures of bankers or of the people who make the products like furnaces and insulation and all that stuff. These are normal American people, or people from whatever country you are that you're watching this. These are normal people. Normal people must understand that when you go into a restaurant and you get something that you didn't order, or that tastes terrible, or that's cold, or that has a hair in it, you do not pay for that. You get a new one, and you might even get it for free, because they don't want you to be unhappy with them and give them a bad review. The same exact discernment is possible in homes. And once these normal people understand that they need to expect, ask for, and demand proof that they got what they paid for, you do not have to sell it to them. You do not have to convince a realtor to sell it to them. These people are the most important people in this entire equation. We need to stop talking about building science with realtors and with bankers and with other contractors. There are enough contractors out there who know what they're doing, and then you just need to do it on every single job. So once you, the homeowner, understands that you need to expect this stuff, everything changes. Who is going to make that happen? You. You are going to make that happen. So I don't care whether you're a professional or a homeowner watching this, you are now the activist to make sure that you are asking for this stuff and looking for the proof that people do a good job with buildings. Because I guarantee you, as somebody who is a prior piano player for ballerinas, that it is not happening like you think it is. It makes me scared to go to the doctor now, to be perfectly honest with you, because I know for a fact that people who seem to know what they're doing do not always know what they're doing. You need the proof. So, thank you very much for your time. I hope that we've got some questions here stacked up. You guys need equipment to do this, and you need to go to truetechtools.com and talk with Bill and his partners there, because they know more about tools than anybody else in the industry. And go ahead and learn more, learn as much as possible, and try and get out of the standard box of code and standards and all of the kind of just satisfactory performance stuff. So, Bill, do we have questions?
Yeah, we do have one on the, this is from Ken, on the HVAC diagnostics. Are you speccing any particular upgrades in the duct system?
That book is only about testing. It's not about speccing improvements. There are definitely tons of books that are fantastic for speccing improvements. The duct system generally needs to be a few things. It needs to not leak. And the immediate thing that'll come up with an HVAC professional is, well, but if it's leaking in the floor cavity, then it's coming inside, and it's not an energy efficiency problem. And I would remind everyone that it is not about energy efficiency. It's about control. If I did a manual J calculation, which is a heat load calculation for each individual room, and I know how many BTUs need to get into each room, and then I do a manual D calculation, and that's to size the ductwork for the length so that I can get the proper BTUs delivered with the proper CFM into each room. And by the way, those two things are required by law in the 2012 IECC here in Illinois and in many other places. In the US and around the world. Then I do the manual S and I select a piece of equipment that can do those two things, and then my ducts leak. Then those things, the calculations that I spent so much time on and all that design, is total garbage, because the air is not actually being delivered to the rooms that it was promised to. So the duct tightness test is absolutely not ridiculous. It is the most important part, because it's the proof that all of the design work actually can achieve what it was intended to do. So sealed ductwork, important. Insulated ductwork, important. Not in exterior space as much as possible. And then sized properly. And that's with the manual D. And you want to just kind of follow. There are a lot of, in fact, there's a really great table and chapter about this in a book called Measured Home Performance. And that's available for free. You can get that through my training portal, which again you can sign up for at buildingperformanceworkshop.com. But that's a free PDF that was paid for by the state of California, and that's got a fantastic section on it.